Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Paper Rose Studios' Wedding Blooms collection. There are 3 paper pads that are part of the Wedding Blooms collection. I have all 3 in the 6x6 size. I'll show you the original Wedding Blooms paper pad first. There are a total of 18 double-sided pattern papers in the paper pack. You'll get 3 each of 12 designs. Some of the designs have large images. There's also a sheet with lots of cut-apart images and sentiments. And even though this is a wedding theme collection, several of the designs would work great for birthday, graduation, or other celebration events. The balloon paper with all the florals is one of my favorite designs in this collection. Next up is Wedding Blooms Basics. The designs are very similar to the original Wedding Blooms, but on a smaller scale. Although in this paper pack, it doesn't have any of the full scene images. There are also a few different patterns. We have a fun striped chevron pattern. There's one that looks like snowflakes, or maybe it could be doilies. I really like the smaller scale size of several of the images. There's cakes, cupcakes, florals, rings, champagne glasses, and also one with the lovely balloons. The last paper pad is Wedding Blooms Textures. In this collection, one side has this beautiful design and the back side has more of a watercolor pattern. I really liked having this collection to work with the other 2 paper pads since there are lots of tone-on-tone designs and the other 2 have more busier patterns. I love having the variety of different designs by using the 3 different paper collections. And the watercolor designs in the Textures paper pad are definitely some of my favorites. And you could use all 3 of the paper pads individually, but they do coordinate together as well. To coordinate with the pattern paper, there are a couple of embossed die cut packs and also a cut apart pack. I'll show you the cut apart pack first. This one's called Wedding Blooms. There are 18 single-sided sheets. And these are all elements you'll need to fussy cut out. Beautiful images. You will get 3 each of 6 designs. So lots and lots of images to use along with the pattern paper. And just like the paper packs, many of the images would work for weddings along with birthdays, graduations, or other celebrations. There's also lots of floral images and you could use those for any occasion. Next up is the Wedding Blooms Embossed Die Cut Pack. I love using Paper Rose's embossed die cuts. They're just beautiful. All of the images have this lovely embossed finish detail. So you can see when the light hits it, all that beautiful gloss. The images simply pop out. They're just attached by a few small tabs. You can take a pair of scissors and trim off that small tab if you like. I have 2 of this set, so I have even more beautiful embossed images to use for my cards. The images are very similar to what comes in the cut apart pack, but if you don't like to fussy cut, it's nice to have the alternative and use the embossed die cuts. The final pack is Wedding Blooms Frames and Florals. This is another embossed die cut pack. There are 4 A5 sheets. Lots of beautiful frames, plus several florals and a couple other images. You can see they all have that beautiful embossed detail. If you are interested in any of the products from the Wedding Blooms collection, I do have links in the description box below. And I do have several cards to share with you using the products I just showed. The only item I didn't use is the Wedding Blooms Frames and Florals Embossed Die Cut Pack. I will be using some card sketches for inspiration. The first sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 39. And if you're interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, I selected this lovely floral paper for the background, added a 1-inch strip of the blue chevron tone-on-tone paper, layered the background on some dark blue cardstock, put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. This card will be featuring one of the cut-aparts that's included in the original Wedding Blooms paper pad. And the cut-aparts are fairly small in the 6x6 size. If you prefer a larger size, you could always get the 12x12 collection. And all 3 of the paper collections are available in 6x6 and 12x12 sizes. I selected the wedding ring with the sentiment, "Congratulations." For the second rectangle that'll go behind the cut-apart image, I'm using one of the tan watercolor pattern paper. I'll layer both of them on the same dark blue cardstock. I'll add the tan rectangle down first on the left side of the card. Before adhering the image and sentiment, I will add some scrap cardstock pieces underneath, and that'll help keep it at the same level as the tan rectangle piece. Using a small scrap piece of the dark blue cardstock, I cut a small banner and adhered it on the left side of the tan panel. To finish off the card, I'm using some Love from Lizi peel-off stickers. This is the mini circle style in the silver color. Put 3 in the lower left-hand corner and 2 on the right side of the image sentiment box. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. 2 of them are wedding themed and the other 2 are birthday themed. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from OWH. This is number 200. For the background of my card, selected the cupcake pattern paper. I'll be layering it on the same dark blue cardstock. For the strip that goes across the card, using 2 different pattern papers, I used the tan watercolor design for the narrow strip at the top and the tan chevron stripe paper for the wider strip. Layered both of those on the same dark blue cardstock. After adhering that strip down, I'll layer the background on the same dark blue cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. For most of my cards, I like to add an additional 1/8 of an inch for the cardstock layers, but for this card sketch, I am adding an additional 1/4 of an inch, and all of the measurements are provided on the card sketch. For the image box, I use some white shimmer cardstock, and I'll layer it on the same dark blue cardstock. Before adhering it on the left side of the card, I am adding some scrap cardstock pieces above and below where it goes over the pattern paper pieces in the center of the card, and that'll help it stay at the same level. Since the scrap cardstock pieces won't be visible, I am using some thicker white cardstock. Now I'll add one of the embossed die cuts. Beautiful cake with lots of flowers and a lovely blue bow. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the cake on the image box. If you want more dimension, you could always pop that up with some foam. For a sentiment, I'm using Paper Rose's Happy Birthday Sentiment Sheet Pack. This is a really fun sentiment pack. Some of the sentiments have rose gold, silver, and gold foil, and there's also black and white. And Paper Rose's sentiment sheet packs always have tons of sentiments. This one is labeled Happy Birthday, but there are several other sentiments included. Congratulations, best wishes, thanks so much, thinking of you, and I think there's a few others. I layered the sentiment on the same dark blue cardstock, put a scrap piece of cardstock on the right side, and I'll adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. A little bit different than what the card sketch indicates. Then to finish off the card, I'm adding a gold stitched heart die cut, and I did pop it up with some thin foam dimension. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. 2 wedding cards and 2 birthday cards. For card design number 3, Using a stitched rectangle die from Paper Rose, I cut out a piece of dark blue cardstock and also one of the tone-on-tone pattern paper designs. I'll put adhesive on the back of the pattern paper. I use some ATG tape and also some glue along that stitched edge. That'll help it lay nice and flat. Then I'll layer that piece on the cardstock layer, put adhesive on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. Overall, this is a very simple card design, and I think by using the stitched rectangle dies, it gives the card that little extra detail. I will place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. With the stitch edges, sometimes they want to warp, so having that extra weight and the extra adhesive will help them lay nice and flat. Using Paper Rose's envelope die, I cut out one from some dark blue watercolor pattern paper, and I'll be tucking in one of the floral embossed die cut images. I'll put a little bit of adhesive on the inside of the envelope to hold the floral image in place. Then I'll flip it over, put a piece of foam dimension behind the top portion of the envelope. And just to help everything stay together, I'll put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back side, and that'll secure the two die cut pieces together. I'll remove the release paper. Next, I'll put some thin foam dimension on the back of the envelope using scrapbook.com's 1mm foam. Make sure to get good coverage, putting it all along the outside edge of the envelope, and I'll also put a strip in the very center. Behind the top of the floral image, I'm putting some slightly thicker foam dimension. Using scrapbook.com's large rounds, this is the 2mm thickness. Now remove the release paper from all of the foam and add the envelope on the front of the card. And you can see it fits nicely on an A2 size card. But there's still enough room where you could add a sentiment above or below the envelope. I'll be adding the sentiment at the bottom of the envelope, using another sentiment cut apart from the same Happy Birthday set, this time Best Wishes, and I'm using the gold foil sentiment. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side, and I will pop it up with more thin foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. The other 2 cards feature a bottle of champagne surrounded by florals, and I added the sentiment, Congratulations. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 81. This is a fun card sketch to feature several different pattern papers. I'm mostly using tone-on-tone patterns, but I do have one busier pattern across the card. For the background of the card, I'm using some green watercolor pattern paper. For the large panel in the back, I'm using the light tan and white design. And I am layering all of the pieces on some dark blue cardstock. I'll add the tan and white piece down first, and it'll go more on the right side of the card. Before adding the floral piece across the card, I'll put the scrap cardstock pieces on the right and left side. Make sure to cut them small enough so they fit in those areas. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add the floral piece in place. And I am following the card design fairly closely. Sometimes it's fun to use card designs just for inspiration. Other times I follow them closely. I'll layer the background piece on the same dark blue cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next, I'll add the tone-on-tone piece, and I cut this from one of the background pieces. It had a large image in one of the lower corners, but I'm using just some of the tone-on-tone design. It has some light script on the background, a little bit of splatter, and sort of a grid design. I'll put the scrap piece of cardstock at the very top before adhering it down. For a sentiment, I'm adding "Thanks so much." I'll cut a fishtail on the right side, put a scrap piece of cardstock on the left side where it goes off of that other panel, Put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a small stitch star die cut, and I used some gold mirror cardstock for that. I did pop it up with some foam dimension, and I'll adhere it above the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. I decided not to add any of the embossed or cut apart images and just focused on the sentiment and the pretty floral paper in the background. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is number 33. This is another great sketch to feature lots of different pattern papers. I selected 3 pattern papers for the background. I have the balloons, a light tan and white stripe paper that'll go in the center, and cupcakes on the right side. I'll layer all 3 of those strips on some dark blue cardstock. Start with the cupcakes on the right side. I'll place the strip in the middle down but not adhere it yet. Then I'll add the balloons on the left side. And finally, I'll add the strip in the middle. And that helps me get everything lined up nice and straight. Now put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And of course I ran out of ATG tape, so I quickly grabbed my glue to fill in that little area. And I did pause the video so I could add a new roll of tape. For the narrow strip that goes across the card, using some of the tan watercolor pattern paper, put adhesive on the back and adhere it in place. For the image box, I used some white shimmer cardstock, and I'll layer that piece on some dark blue cardstock. Before adhering it down, I'll put those scrap cardstock pieces above and below where it goes over the tan watercolor strip. And I'm just using more of the blue cardstock for those layers. I usually grab whatever's left over on my craft table. For this card, I'm using one of the cut apart images. This beautiful cupcake with lots of florals on it. And I did fussy cut this image out. Put glue on the back and adhere it on the image box. For a sentiment, I'm adding a gold foil happy birthday. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side, and I'll be adhering it right on top of the cupcake wrapper toward the bottom. Before adhering it down, I am putting some small scrap pattern paper pieces on the right and left side. Then I'll put adhesive on the back and adhere the sentiment in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. 2 of the cards have the one large cupcake, and the other card has 2 smaller orange frosting cupcakes. For the last 2 cards, I put the sentiment underneath the cupcakes on the left side since there was a little opening there and it seemed to balance out nicely. Now moving on to card design number 6, and this is my final card design. For the background of my card, using the pattern paper that has all of the different ring images, across the card I did add a 1 1/4 inch strip of the tan striped chevron pattern paper, and I adhered that about 1 inch up from the bottom of the card. I'll layer the background piece on some dark blue cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. For this card, I'm using Paper Rose Studios Romeo Layered Heart die set. I cut out the background from the dark blue watercolor pattern paper, and the smaller heart image with all that beautiful detail, I used some white shimmer cardstock. I'll hold the heart using a pair of reverse tweezers, put Barely Art glue on the back side, then adhere it on the dark blue watercolor heart. I'll place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Want to make sure all those intricate little areas are adhered down. Once that's all dry, I'll put glue on the back and adhere the heart on the left side of the card, about a 1/2 inch in from the left. I will be adding one of the embossed die cut images, the 2 rings with the beautiful floral images. I did pop it up with some foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and add the die cut image in the very center of the heart. For a sentiment, I'm adding the gold foil Celebrate. I'll cut a fishtail on the right side, and I'll be tucking the very left side of the sentiment piece underneath the ring images. Before adhering it down, I did put a scrap piece of cardstock and also pattern paper on the very right side. And I'll put glue on the back and adhere it on the right side of the ring images. For embellishments, I'll be adding some of Paper Rose's clear crystals. This is part of their shaker mix. I'm dumping a small amount in a wooden bowl since my little container is really full. The crystals don't have adhesive on the back, so I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue. I'll pick up the crystals using Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. I'll add 3 crystals in the lower left-hand corner and 2 above the sentiment on the right side. And I'm using a variety of different sizes of the crystals. This mix includes 4 different sizes of crystals, and I love having the different variety of sizes. I'll also add a narrow strip of the pattern paper on the inside of the card. And I like to do this if I have those narrow strips left over. Just adds that little extra detail. So there is my finished card, and again I did make 4 using this design. 2 of the cards are wedding themed and the other 2 are birthday themed. Now here's another look at the 24 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios Wedding Blooms collection. I used all 3 of the coordinating paper pads along with a variety of the embossed die cuts and cut apart packs. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Paper Rose is located in Australia and they do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase them here in the US from several different stores. And I have provided links for both locations in the description box below. This was a really fun collection to use. It's perfect for wedding cards, but as you can see, you can also use it for other card themes, especially birthday cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.